Well, good morning and welcome to our first meeting in May. Thank you all for coming out today and being engaged citizens. I think it's quieter in here than church. We're going to hear an invocation today by Pastor David Cox from Central Baptist Church. We're so glad you're here. And we welcome the Crestview High School JROTC to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. Invocation first.
For their and the county commissioners and their families. I pray that you would lead them and guide them by the power of the Holy Spirit, that all they do and say will be in truth and for the good of Okaloosa County. I pray that you would give them wisdom and discernment as they lead our great county. We pray this in the precious name of Jesus Christ, our Savior. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. Arm. Right. Face. Forward. March. Mark time. Mark.
So we'll begin this morning with employee awards. We've asked John Hofstad to come forward and to give employee awards this morning. I always like this part.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners, and good morning. As you know, we take time during the year to recognize our most valuable asset. This county has 1,100 employees, and it takes every one of them to get the job done running this county. So we like to recognize them during certain intervals in their career, and we have two this morning. I'll start with a 2-year service award. This is our Parks and Facilities Operations Manager, and this is Lori Welch, and again, this is her 2-year service award. Stay up here. We got a good picture. Next, I'd like to ask Lance Jones to come forward. Lance is Utilities GIS Analyst in Water and Sewer. This is both his 10-year service award and his retirement. So we want to recognize him for that.
Mr. Hofstad for the County Administrator's update.
Thank you again, Madam Chair, Commissioners. I just have a couple of items I want to speak to this morning. First, we've pulled together a committee, including members of the clerk of court, our OMB staff, and others, trying to evaluate the impacts of these proposed tax reforms. As you know, there are many. So we are going through that exercise now. We'll report that information back to the board. I want to thank Patrick and his team for the Hurricane Expo this weekend. Heard the crowd was even bigger than last year, so great job with that. And then lastly, you have an addition to an agenda item, and that agenda item is number 42. It's the U.S. Treasury Restore Award. That is that additional packet that's in front of you that came in late from U.S. Treasury. We wanted to make sure you had that, and that was included as part of the record today. And then lastly, in speaking to Mr. Stage this morning, your department business item under airports, the award of the construction contract, Aero Bridge Works. I understand from talking to Tracy, there are some issues with that contract language. He is asking that we pull that item and continue that until the next meeting while he cleans up some of that contract language. Is that it, Tracy? Okay. And with that, ma'am, that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Ms. Hoshihara.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no updates today.
Thank you. Mr. Embry.
Thank you. I just wanted to take a minute to recognize Jennifer Falk. Recently, Mary Beth Poole, my Chief Deputy of Administration, moved to Charlotte to be closer to family. I promoted Jennifer Falk. She's going to be Chief Deputy of Personnel Services over my HR department and professional development. So I just want to take a minute to recognize her. She comes with a wealth of knowledge, experience, and education. So that's all. Thank you.
Welcome aboard the team. So now we're going to turn to public comments. I have a number of speaker cards. If you have not filled one out and you'd like to speak, please see Nick in the back, Mr. Tomachek. And we're strictly adhering to the 3-minute rule, so please watch your time as you come to the mic. You also need to push the button, and the red glow light needs to be on so that we can record your talk. The first one I'd like to call is Steve Perry. Mr. Perry.
Good morning. My name is Steve Perry. I'm been here before, and I'm here to speak about the SS United States. The reason I'm here again is to educate you and make you guys aware of some of the historic significance of this vessel. It's much more than a ship. It's a very important historical artifact. There's many ships that can be, used as artificial reefs and everything like that that don't have the historical significance of this vessel. The main thing is, this is something that's represented around the world as well as this country of the pinnacle of shipbuilding. I'm going to give an example of a what-if situation. You have 9 properties in Oglala County that are on the historic register. What if you had a developer came that wanted to destroy the mound and put a hotel or something on it? How would you feel about that? I know you guys don't know and understand maybe the significance of this ship and its maritime heritage and everything like that, but this is the pinnacle of shipbuilding. Anyway, you also have other historical properties, and these are very important to the historical aspect of Florida, Oglala County. Another thing I wanted to bring up is just recently, you had another diving death on the Oriskany back on February 28th. A gentleman with supposedly over 100 dives and everything. So diving on large ships is dangerous. The issue here in the United States as an artificial reef in the shallow waters is it's going to be irresistible for people to avoid wanting to go inside. Your coastal research manager just made it clear that people will be swimming around the ballroom and everything inside. I've been on board the ship. People will get lost and you will have deaths. And there's no reason for that. There's much safer vessels that will not allow people to get trapped inside and won't have the incentive for unsafe diving practices. With that issue, there's other issues related to ships and the remediation process. Everything from what I can see from video and following is going quite well. All this remediation needs to be done for any redevelopment that some of us would like to see happen for this vessel. But the ship is coated, and for those of you who've been on board, the yellow paint you see inside is a product called zinc chromate. It's a primer and everything like that. There's nothing wrong with this. It's firmly attached to the steel. But once you put it in the water column, it will start degrading. Fish will be eating this. You'll be catching fish, and people will be eating the fish. And this causes potential problems. There's also lead in all the paints. I have the original paint schedule from 1949. There's lead in all the paints used on the ship. I don't know if your remediation and your team plans to remediate and remove the paint from the vessel, but I know certain levels of lead are not allowed to be put in the water column. So that's something that maybe needs to be addressed by your contractor and everything like that, how you're going to address those issues. There's nothing wrong with an artificial reef, but large ships, artificial reefs pose problems versus all the wonderful smaller items you guys have used previously, the tetrahedrons and the small boats that do not cause these problems. In fact, I don't know if I've seen anything in all the news that you've had deaths on all these small boats or tetrahedrons and that use that. Large ships cause a problem. So just wanted to let you know that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fuller.
Yes, it is. My subject today is county administrator and nonprofit groups. So in the paper, it said the county withdraw the grant bid for Project Sound, which is no concern to me, but I want to read this out. Each county to which is part apply for shall appoint a county administrator who shall be administrator head of the county and shall be responsible for administration of all departments of the county government, which the board county commission has authority to control pursuant to this act, the general law of Florida. The county administrator shall be qualified by administrative, executive experience, and ability to serve as the chief administrator of the county. He or she shall be appointed by a permanent affirmative vote or less than 3 members of the board. The county commissioner may remove at any time by an affirmative vote upon notice, and not less than 3 members of the board after the hearing, if such requested by the county administrator needed to be resident of the county at the time of appointment during his denture or office and reside within the county. Now, listen to this. The compensation to the administrator shall be fixed by the board of the county commissioner unless otherwise provided by law. So when we did recon on John Osmond Hofstad, he's 59 years old. He'll be 60 in November. He'll be 2 years younger than me. Well, 3 now because I turned 62 today. But he made $90.37 an hour. And on September the 4th, he was given 2024, he was given a $24,000 pay hike. And let's see what else. Also, and that's under the statute 125.73. Under Florida statute 125.74, all his duties from A through O, but one of them, he get to negotiate lease contract and other agents, including consulting service for county subject to board, see all terms, condition, and lease and contracts agreement are performed, shall employ supervise personnel. And so the reason why I bring up this, because under the Triumph thing on June 17th, it said, according to document provided by County Administrator John Hofstad, the commission consented to Project Sound, which Ms. Edwards and this guy wasn't even on the board then. Then when I came in here and spoke that Wednesday, all of a sudden, because the people also can ask for money. So it sounds like y'all trying to, by him saying this, that nobody can ask for that money also from, let me where the people know who I'm talking about. Triumph Gulf Coast. That's okay, but hey, I'll be back later.
Thank you, Mr. Fuller, and happy birthday.
Yeah.
Mr. Williams.
Good morning. My name is Adam Williams. I'm the president of Shalimar Little League. And I just wanted to come to you guys today to thank you for being a tremendous partner for us at the Port Dixie Park. We are very excited for our growth and consideration for additional fields, which we are in desperate need of. We have a record number of 500 kids this year and 42 teams. If we are able to get these new facilities, we want to have a rapid growth plan to be the largest Little League in the district. Land-wise, we already are, but we are handcuffed at the moment due to our limited field availability. So our plan is also to really focus on the Port Dixie kids that can't afford to be at summer camp or things of that nature, we have leased the facility year round now, so we can start implementing programs that will be free to those children. Summer sandlot games, and just anything that we can do under the Little League umbrella to support these kids. And I just thank you for the consideration for increasing our ability to have more kids out on the field. So with that, I just wanted to say thank you, and hopefully we have your support to expand the Little League even more for the future. So thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll take the vote shortly if you're staying. Okay,
Yes,
thank you. Mr., I want to get this name right, John Tidwell?
Yeah, I'm John Tidwell. I'm actually here just to answer any questions for the Lancaster rezoning. I think it's item 8 farther on the docket.
That's the public hearing item.
Sorry, I
No
didn't
problem.
realize that you were here. I'll call you back up if we
Yeah,
need to. Thank
Actually,
you.
I'm just here on that item if there's any questions. So if there's questions, I can come back up then.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. So now we'll take up the consent agenda unless there's anybody else from the audience that wish to speak who didn't fill out a speaker's card. You can come up now and fill it out afterwards. Seeing no one, we'll go to the consent agenda.
Commissioner, I had 2 if I could pull.
Sure,
Item 12 and 13 just for discussion.
12 and 13, okay?
Madam Chairman, I have item 2 to pull.
Thank you. Anybody else? I'd like to pull 17 and 23. So I'll entertain a motion minus 2, 12, 13, 17, and 23.
Second.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Palmer and a second, Commissioner Cox, right? Okay. All in favor? Aye. No opposition. It passes 4-1. And I should have said that it's obvious, but our chairperson is out of town today, and so I'm filling in as vice chair. And he is missed. Okay, so we'll start with Commissioner Cox.
So I have a proclamation this morning. It is to request approval of proclamation to designate May 2025 as Cox Inspirational Student Hero Month in Okaloosa County. This proclamation is to dedicate this day to an exceptional student or students who have overcome exceptional adversity. It says, the proclamation to designate May 2025 as Cox Inspirational Student Hero Month in Okaloosa County. Whereas since its inception in 1993, the Cox Inspirational Heroes Program has recognized more than 5,000 incredible students from Lafayette, Louisiana to Gainesville, Florida. And whereas the students are chosen by a committee of leaders at their school due to their resilience in the face of adversity. And whereas they have overcome a loss of a family member, medical issue, difficult family situation, or other hardship, and they did so with a smile on their face and continue to encourage and inspire others around them. And whereas the program is in its 32nd year in Okaloosa County, and now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners of Okaloosa County, Florida, that we do hereby proclaim the month of May 2025 as Cox Inspirational Student Hero Month, duly passed and adopted the 6th day of May 2025.
So we have a motion for approval of this. Do we have a second? Second from Mr. Commissioner Palmer. All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? It passes 4-1. Now, I'd like to make a presentation if others are here.
First of all, good morning. Cam Johnson, Cox Communications. Thank you very much for passing this proclamation for these kids. Hopefully y'all can make it next Tuesday at Northwest Florida State College at 4 o'clock, where we celebrate these kids and hear their stories. And I just got to tell you, obviously it says it in the name, but some of the things that these kids have done and gone through in their lives to still be that inspiration to others around them is amazing. So thank you all so much for recognizing those kids today.
Commissioner Goodwin, number 12.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So item 12 and actually 13 are somewhat related for the reasons that I wanted to pull them up. Item 12 is a release of lien from a code enforcement board action. And I know the board has previously dealt with, some policy updates on how we deal with that. Commissioner Cox and Commissioner Palmer, y'all may not have been here quite yet the last time we took one of these up. I can't remember, but I thought these presented a good opportunity to kind of revisit where we are and see how we're doing policy wise. So number 12, my understanding is a complete release of the lien, probably related to some technicalities. And I've had the opportunity to talk with Ms. Hoshihar about that. I understand the technicalities and how we are where we are, but and I'm happy to move to approve that one. But I would like to see if the board would be willing to allow Ms. Hoshihar to look at that one and see if any funds ultimately got released to the wrongdoer in that situation. And if they did, whether or not we might have any sort of remaining in personam claims, even though I think our in rem claims are gone. I don't know if if there's any objection to that, but if not, that'd be my request. And I'm happy to make a motion that we approve it with that additional, request to Ms. Hoshihar's office.
Can you just restate what the addition is?
To have Ms. Hoshihar's office investigate where the proceeds, that particular property was sold at a tax deed sale. And to find out where the additional proceeds went and to make sure that they didn't end up in the wrongdoer's hands, I guess. And if they did, whether or not we have any claim to go against that person.
So if this is the one that I'm remembering correctly, this is the one that resulted, there was the owner passed away. Is that correct? This is the one that I'm remembering. Is that right?
Maybe.
Yes. Okay. And then we would be looking to whether that owner's estate received.
Wherever the money went. And it may not turn up anything, but I'd ask Ms. Hoshihar if it's something she thought she could look at, and I don't want to speak for her, but she indicated at least we could do some initial investigation.
Sure. If it's the board's wishes, I can certainly work with the clerk's office to see where any surplus, well, one, to see if there were any surplus funds, and if so, where they were distributed to determine if any went to the estate of the previous property owner. And then I can come back with any recommendations as potential claims that the county may have moving forward.
So that'd be my motion.
Okay, we have a second?
I'm sorry, can I just one more clarifying in your motion? So you're moving to approve the, let's see, approve the release of lien with the understanding that Ms. Hoshihar's office is going to investigate where the proceeds of that tax sale went to and whether we have any claim to that.
Correct.
Well, I mean, we can look for a second and then we can discuss, or
Yes. So do we have a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Okay, good. Go
Okay,
ahead.
so would it not be better to just look at the release of lien after Ms. Hashihara has had the chance to investigate? And so for now, we would just either table this to a future meeting, maybe.
I think we need to hear from other, I believe there is a pending sale, a transaction involved with this property.
Yes,
And that was the urgency to bring it forward is to complete that transaction.
Okay, so then we would be unencumbering the property
Right.
while still reserving the ability to go
Yes,
to
sir.
the estate. Okay, understood. With that, I will support.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? It passes 4-0. I pulled 17. I'm sorry,
13.
Huh? 13. Oh.
13 's similar, but a slightly
I
different
apologize.
twist, Madam Chair, if I could speak
Yes,
to
of
that one.
course, please.
So this one is a reduction in code enforcement lien, and the board went through, an effort to come up with a policy on what we're going to do with these, because routinely in the past, these liens would accrue, people would come forward, have a compelling story as to why it would be a nice thing to do to let it go. When you look back at the history, we were just waiving $20, $30, $40, $50,000, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars for zero. And it kind of made the whole concept of having a code enforcement lien kind of really a nothing, if they could just get it all waived. So I think the policy came back and said, at the very least, you've got to capture all the costs. We did that. And then it kind of came back up to the board again for some clarification. What did we mean by that? And I think my understanding was it kind of was like all costs, even if it's not a check that the county wrote, right? That, certainly publications, certainly filing fees, recording fees, those kind of hard costs are easy to track. But what about staff time? What about even general counsel's time? Even though general counsel does those code enforcement services under their general contract, when they're working on somebody's property because they've chosen to leave it in such an egregious condition that it rises to that level, what that means is the county attorney's office is now not doing other work that we need them to do because they're focused on this work. So I think even though we're not writing them a specific check, there's a cost component and there's got to be a way to track it. So for this one, it really struck me because we're releasing like a $250,000 lien for $500. I'm rounding, but that's pretty drastic. And it's not that I want to just be punitive, but there's got to be more than $500 worth of time to go through investigations, which include almost always multiple trips to the property, multiple notices, then a hearing, which is publicly noticed in front of the code enforcement board, then follow up after the code enforcement board. Somebody's got to record the lien. I suspect that even before we got to this point, somebody's gone back out to the property to verify compliance. All that's done for $500? I can't imagine. So I think what's happening is we don't have the tools available right now to capture our costs. And I don't know how we can do it, whether or not we can go back and do that for this one. If we could, I'd much rather do that. If we can't, then maybe it is what it is, and it's only a forward-looking adjustment to our policy. But I wanted to bring that up because I think it's a significant issue. I mean, literally, these things don't come up and get to the code enforcement board unless they're pretty serious matters. I mean, I think our staff and our county policy has been pretty clear. We're not just, we're not the county hall monitors. We're not citing people because they, park their boat trailer in their driveway and their neighbor got irritated. This is pretty bad stuff. And so if you're going to rise to that level of being really, frankly, an infringement on your community's enjoyment of their property, and you're going to let it go long enough to accrue $250,000 worth of fines and let it drag on and drag on and drag on, does it make sense that the county says, at the end of the day, we'll just let it go for $500? It just doesn't seem, I don't know if we're actually undertaking what we're supposed to be doing, if that's it. And again, I don't want to be punitive, but I feel like there's at least probably more costs, probably at least 3 times that in some of these things. So I don't know, Mr. Camper or, Jason, if you have some thoughts on what we might do either with this situation or in the future, but
I'd like to ask Mr. Autry to speak to it.
Sure. So I had a chance to discuss this yesterday with Ms. Hoshihara, and Elliot and I've talked about it a little bit as well. I don't know that we can go back and necessarily find the information out about this specific one, but I do think we have some tools available to us to make improvements looking forward. We've got a process inside that we've had in Public Works for several years where we can track very specific items. We use it often in emergency responses so we can do our reimbursements. And I think we can go in the same vein. Lynn and I talked as well about potentially coming up with some sort of average number to value out, or we can get specifics on how to assess the legal fees that go to it. But I think we can come up with a very specific way to track on a claim that comes through so that it's not punitive, but it accurately reflects the effort that it took to get those claims to this point.
can I ask Mr. Autry a question? For this particular item 13, would it be your recommendation just to move on as it is?
I think it would be too difficult, if not impossible, to get the exact number of where we are. So I would say, yes, let's take it where we got, because they are very definitive numbers. Elliot showed me what we have as a log that was taken of code enforcement time now. So I have no problem whatsoever saying that that's accurate. But to go back and try and recreate, I think it's too difficult because this is over a multiple year period. I just don't know that the effort would be worth it.
So, Madam Chairman, can I, if I could make a motion to approve 13, I'd like to reserve to talk about it. One other follow-up, if that's okay. So I'll move to approve 13.
So we have a first by Commissioner Goodwin and a second by Commissioner Palmer. Any other discussion? Let me just say that I like where you're going with this, I think, because I'm gravely concerned about what the legislature is about to do with us. And we need to start looking for every nickel and dime under every rock. So thank you. So with that, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? It passes 4-0. Thank you, Commissioner Goodwin. Go ahead.
I would like to see if the board would be willing to entertain a moratorium on accepting further lien waiver applications until Mr. Autry and Mr. Camper are able to come back to the board and report that they've got the system in place to make sure we are capturing those costs like Mr. Autry was talking about.
I think that's a perfectly fine idea.
So I don't know if it needs a time or just indefinite until you report back.
I wish I could tell you that I knew what it was, but I would say give us probably 60 days to get an exact accounting of how we go through this process. And I don't think that's going to be too much of an encumbrance. You got to remember, these are $250,000 liens, so they're not happening overnight. So I think we have the time to make sure we get it right.
So 60-day moratorium on accepting lien
requests for
waiver
waivers.
applications.
I think that's reasonable. Yes, sir.
Okay. That's my motion.
Yep.
So that's a motion, correct?
Yes,
We have a second.
I'll second for discussion.
Okay, thank you. Did you, okay.
So, Madam
Go
Chair,
ahead.
yes, so as we're looking at this motion to put a moratorium in place for 60 days, there may be circumstances that come up, such as the previous one that we just approved, where there's a sale pending and the property is encumbered and preventing the sale. And number one, I guess I would ask, what are the chances of that happening? And I know that kind of takes a crystal ball. You don't really know. So I would ask the board whether we might amend that motion to allow for, if in case it's a sale of a property or some other third party is involved, that, and I'm not sure exactly how to do that, but what are your thoughts on that?
So just a moment. Before we consider this, we have to make sure that we have unanimous today because it needs to be a super majority. So do we have approval to go forward with this walk-on? Do we need to actually have a motion in a second? Yeah.
Permission to speak.
Okay. So do we have
Permission to speak on the
Yes.
subject? I just wanted to clarify, maybe just for my own clarification, but potentially for any any of our citizens as well, that this isn't so much to be able to find money to add to our budget, but rather to recover the taxpayers' funds that are already being expended in pursuit of compliance to the properties, so that we can ensure, the community's enjoyment of their own properties.
So before we go any further with this, we need a majority to that we agree. Yes, to a motion to walk on. Do we have a second? Second. Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we have super majority. We had 4. We need 4 out of 5, and we don't have the 5th one. So go ahead.
Do I need to remake the other motion?
Sure.
All right, so I move to implement a 60-day moratorium on accepting code enforcement lien waiver applications while staff investigates the cost tracking framework that they're using.
Okay. We have a second?
And I will second.
Okay, very good. Any further discussion?
So as to the previous discussion, I mean,
I would like to point out that there's always, the moratorium is on the request for waiver of liens. Anybody could satisfy whatever, if there is some sort of lien that's on the property, that option still remains available. So this just gives us the opportunity to find out if they're asking for a very specific reduction of a waiver to come to the board for it. But if they are under that dire circumstance, there is the ability to satisfy the lien that's applied. That option is still available. I don't know what value items are out there, but there is that option still. I don't know that this is going to be a deal killer. Elliot may be able to answer if we have any known items that are hanging in the
Mr.
balance.
Camper?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just a couple thoughts. One would be certainly in discussions that have been had with Mr. Autry and Ms. Oshihara, the ability to look at identifying some kind of a standardized legal charge is going to help us, because we do track down to mileage times the gas rate, the specific, rate of the payment of the code enforcement officers, then Ms. Payton's time in front of the board. So we do a fairly comprehensive listing of what we're tracking now, and that tool will certainly help us, itemize more uniformly for sure. So I think number one, having a standardized rate that we can apply for legal time is going to be very helpful. Another thing is keep in mind a big problem. It's not just Okaloosa; it's everywhere. Is you get these problem properties that hang around forever, and pretty soon the value of the lien is worth more than the property by multiples, and you're never going to get that back. But perhaps in looking just at, as the original discussion was, the cost that we have into it plus a nominal 20%, maybe we could tie that back rather to a percentage of the lien, not to exceed some value of the overall property, because we don't want to make it so expensive. These properties hang out there forever and nobody ever buys them and redevelops them. But I agree, we should get more back. So if the board's discussion contemplates finding some additional measure that we could bring to bear on it to help maybe raise that floor a little bit, I think that would be helpful.
And Madam Chair, so so as the motion is currently, it's a 60-day moratorium on any release of lien on property. Should we set a limit to that? I mean, like, is there a floor that we, below which we aren't going to hold them from, being able to disposition of the property? I mean, the reason I ask these questions is I worry that I think we're looking at the right thing. I don't know. We don't know exactly how long it's going to take. We are setting a 60 days. So we're kind of limiting the moratorium to these 60 days, but there may be unintended consequences to some of our residents who are, may find themselves in this situation. Again, I don't know kind of all of the properties that are maybe in this situation. I don't know the level to which, we would be more concerned, but just for discussion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I guess I kind of start from the premise that I think there was a historic misconception that a waiver reduction is a matter of right in Okaloosa County, and it should not be. Now, it may also highlight the fact that we might want to look at our fine and fee structure, because maybe it's too excessive if we're having to waive it. So maybe that's, and I'm not putting that in the form of a motion. I think that's something staff could look at any time and kind of give some thoughts, because these do get pretty steep, and you talk about getting outside the value of the property altogether. But I think, as Mr. Autry pointed out, if somebody feels like they've got to do something, they can always satisfy the lien. There's no reason they can't do that. And so I don't think that just a 60-day moratorium on accepting the applications, again, understanding that we have a lien on a piece of property because someone chose to take such an egregious direction with their property that the county had to step in, and these are almost always generated because of other citizens' complaints. It's not, we don't go around, like I said, we're not the hall monitor. We're not driving around looking for problems. This is because somebody has come to us and said, my neighbor is making my life unsatisfactory. They are reducing the value of my enjoyment of my property. And I don't think you should just get a pass for that if you're going to that level, because I understand how our system works. First of all, I know that, it's not always Lisa, but you use Lisa Payton as an example, who has been doing this for quite some time. I mean, she gives folks multiple opportunities to fix this on their own. She doesn't try to file code enforcement complaints. That's only after it's gotten to the point of ignoring and refusing to fix. So if we were being more punitive with it, I would be less concerned about the waivers. But because I know that these are the bad situations where people have flat out ignored how to be a good neighbor, I'm comfortable with 60 days. Now, a lot of times it's an investor coming in and somebody says, somebody died and now we've inherited the property. We didn't do it. That was my dad. That was my mom. I understand all that. But the reality of it is this: there's been a cost component to somebody, individually, to some of the folks who live near it. And generally, the taxpayers as a whole are covering the costs for all of this code enforcement work. And the person who caused it, at least up until that point, hadn't paid any of it. So everybody else that's paying taxes and living the way they're supposed to are having to subsidize somebody for their bad behavior, egregious behavior. Again, it's only the egregious situations. So I'm comfortable with just the 60-day moratorium because really, frankly, nobody has a right to a reduction. It's discretionary.
Correct.
And I guess if there were some dire circumstance, somebody can always come to the board and ask the board as a whole to consider an exception to the moratorium. And I guess if they had a compelling enough story, the board may be willing to do that. But I would think that is a very, outlier situation, probably not the typical. But that's just, I mean, again, I'm not trying to be punitive. And I think, as Commissioner Cox pointed out, it's not at all about finding new revenue. What it is about understanding that when somebody does this, they're costing everybody else. And it's just about equity in the community. So anyway, that's kind of why I made the motion the way I did. And I feel pretty comfortable with it. And again, I feel like Jason and his team will get on it and have something back well within the 60 days.
Elliot, how often does code enforcement board meet?
Code enforcement board meets monthly or at need. If there's
Okay,
no,
at the last meeting, was there one of these that was requested?
the last meeting, this is one where they had to make a recommendation to the board to take this.
So
on.
mathematically, you're almost at 60 days by the time we
Correct.
have another board and it comes back to the Board of County
yeah.
Commission. I don't think this is going to create an issue for a specific property owner that'll run into a problem before then. So I think your concern was, what if somebody has a lien on it that's trying to close on it, that may be part of the due diligence, but I don't think time-wise they'll be able to make the 2 meetings within the 60 days anyhow. So that's almost a bit of a moot point,
Yes.
if you will.
Any further discussion? Commissioner Palmer, anybody?
I do.
Oh.
I just wanted to say to the citizens, because I feel like there's probably going to be some interpretation of this, and maybe I lean a little bit on the side of saying that those exceptions that we think are going to be quite a bit of an outlier, I feel like probably aren't. I feel like all of most of our citizens are good, well-intentioned people who acquire property either from their parents or from their family or they purchased it. And whether it's, a substance abuse problem or an emotional or a mental health or a job loss or a physical ailment such as my own, that's keeping them from keeping up with the property. I feel like, maybe those are temporary things where people need to reach out and, ask for help and maybe they just don't have any. So my heart goes out to the people, and I wanted to explain that that really, as much as my heart goes out to anyone in that situation, I mean, obviously my properties are not as well kept as they are when I'm fully ambulatory. But I did want to explain that, really as a commissioner, we're assigned with protecting not only your property value, but also the property values of the people around you. And even though, this is a difficult position, this is a difficult chair to sit in to make the vote, to pursue a property for egregious, default on ownership, on upkeep rather. It's sometimes necessary, to take these steps to give the opportunity to make corrections to the properties so that your neighbors and your relationship can be restored if possible, or at least your relationship with the community and as a taxpayer can be restored. So I just wanted to sort of put a little bit of explanation out there. I mean, I know it's a playing devil's advocate there, but I feel that the citizens are owed some level of explanation that we understand that there are going to be exceptions. And I feel like probably most of these cases are where somebody has fallen into a situation that's been an exception to the regular, want and desire to maintain a property, but that at some point we have to act on the behalf of all of you, not just some of you. And that's all I had.
Madam
With
Chair.
that, yes.
Yeah, sorry, one more point. So I will be voting nay on this and I'll just say why. It's because we're putting a moratorium on them submitting an application. And I while they may not have right to relief of the fines and the levies against them, they do have right to petition their government. And I do believe that this is something that we should allow them to submit the application. As Mr. Autry said, it's unlikely that it will get to us within 60 days. Anyways, I do believe in that your department will get some recommendation to us as far as the how we collect the fees that are due to the county, because I do believe that's a good pursuit. But I'll be voting nay just because I do believe that our residents do have the right to petition their government and submit the application. We don't necessarily have to accept that. That would be something that we would discuss here at this meeting to just as we are with these particular cases. So I'll be voting nay on this.
Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye.
Nay.
Okay, all opposed? 2. So it's a 2-2 without a, where does that leave us? Ms. Hoshio?
Fails.
It
It
fails.
fails.
So, okay. Okay, unless you want to reframe it, or do you want to bring it back next time after thinking about it? We'll have all 5 of us here. It may change the vote.
I mean, it is what it is. I unfortunately, I understand the situation, and Commissioner, you and I have lived it for 11 years, and it's been a tough road. And I can tell you my perspective on it today is a lot different than it was when we started.
I agree with that.
But
I didn't want to say that out loud, but now that
well,
you said it, I'll go ahead.
No, it's very fair because you can tell, you can ask Elliot. I mean, I have been very resistant to further code enforcement type regulations, very resistant, and still am. But I think we've whittled it down to what is the most, outrageous type cases. I mean, we don't go measure grass. We don't go check shrubs.
We might need to.
Might need to, but that's again, I've viewed it as really, it's not from overgrowth. It's mostly from unsanitary conditions with trash and filth.
Yeah.
And that's really what it's come down to. And so, like I said, my perspective has probably changed some just having to go out and look at some of these properties with neighbors that are complaining over time. And You know,
And we
but it
also
is what
have-
it is.
We also live in very dense, you and I live in very dense areas now. We represent dense areas, more housing than others. so
Right. No, and
more
and
rural.
again, it's not about, I'll be clear. And I should probably just, move on at this point, but the point is not to, be punitive or heavy-handed at all. But, I think staff may still choose to come back with some ideas anyway.
So I pulled number 17, and the reason I did was because it's a feel-good for me. I can't even say how many hundreds and hundreds of children have played at the Shalimar Little League. And that facility's been there for a long time, I would dare say 75 years, and needs a facelift. And so we are very excited to be doing that. And I just wanted to pull that and say that I'm very grateful to Jeff Peters for really taking this. He's very experienced at athletic facilities, and I thank him and his staff for all that you're about to do there. So thank you, Mr. Peters. And with that, I'll make a motion for approval. Well, I can't, I'm the chair.
Second.
Okay. Do I have a second? Okay, Sherry, thank you both. All in favor? Okay, 4-0. Thank you very much. And I also pulled 23. I just wanted to ask the board if we might delay this. This kind of caught me off guard. It's about building a brick wall in front of Home 2 Suite to protect the courthouse. And I just feel like with the limited dollars we might have, this is going to cost $200,000. I'd like to explore this a little bit more. It's for protection of the courthouse, but I would like to look at it and see if there was another alternative, perhaps shoring up the windows, bulletproof windows, that kind of thing. So I would like to pull it and ask the staff to take a closer look at this before we spend $200,000. I'll see if I can get a motion in a second on this.
So it's a motion to table it.
Yes.
No, I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Is that the motion?
Yes, I'm asking.
Do
Yeah.
we need to table it today, sir?
Yeah.
Just table it. Okay, let's table it.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion to table it for now and have staff take a closer look at this expenditure, and maybe there would be another way other than building a wall. Do we have a second? Thank you, Commissioner Goodwin. Any discussion on this? With that, call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, the motion carries 4-0 to bring it back in the future. Thank you. It was a long consent agenda. We'll now turn to the public hearing. We have one public hearing on today's agenda, which was continued from April 15th, Board of County Commission meeting. This is a quasi judicial public hearing to consider a proposed future land use map amendment associated with rezoning. At this time, I will turn it over to Ms. Hoshihara.
Thank you very much. Anybody here to speak on this request for small scale plan amendment and rezoning submitted by John Tidwell? If you'll please stand and raise your right hand. Nobody? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but? Thank you. Commissioners, now would be the appropriate time to disclose any ex parte communications you may have had.
Ms. Hoshar, those are limited to the zoning component is quasi judicial, correct? The future land use map is legislative?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
I see none. In that case, I will turn it over to Mr. Camper.
Thank you, Ms. Oshihara. I mean, since this is a continuation of the last meeting, I would simply, even formally re-enter all the discussion from last time into today's record and kind of cut to the chase at the conclusion, not the conclusion, but towards the ending of the last meeting. There was a recommendation from the commissioners that the applicant go back and rework the application to better reflect the discussion that was had about better buffering the low density residential that's predominantly to the west of the property from any medium density or mixed use. The applicant has done so, as you see on your screen. The area that they had previously shown in their conceptual plan as having townhomes has been changed to medium density residential as opposed to mixed use. This eliminates the possibility of any, heavier commercial activities up to including C3 from occurring on that property because it wouldn't have direct access to Highway 20. It's no longer mixed use. So I think this fulfills the board's intention that was discussed last time. And I'll be happy to answer any questions, but following any discussion, and of course, as Commissioner Goodwin pointed out, first motion, should you choose to move forward on it, would be for the future land use map amendment, and the second would be for the rezoning follow-up. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Tidwell, at this time, if you'd like to make a presentation, this would be the right time.
Honestly, I was just gonna answer a question. I think we said it all last week. We added what we were asking.
Thank you. Are there any other comments, public comments? This would be the right time to come forward if you wish to speak to this. If not, at this time, we'll close the public hearing. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve or disapprove?
So moved.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Cox. Do we have a
That is for
second?
the future land use amendment, correct?
Thank you for clarifying. Okay, my second from Commissioner Ponder. I mean, Palmer, would anybody, it's gonna happen for a while. Would anybody like to say anything further about this? No discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposition? Passes 4-1. Thank you. Okay, on the rezoning. Okay, does anybody want to make the motion on the rezoning?
I'll move with discussion.
Okay,
Can I do that?
Commissioner Cox.
Mr. Tidwell, I just wanted to thank you for really putting your pencils to work on this. I understand you have a team of people you're working with. We do too. We just, it's a difficult position for me, especially as a former real estate development consultant, to say, no, but maybe, right? No, but sharpen your pencil. We look forward to working with you, and I'm so glad we're going to be able to. I mean, what you have produced as today looks different, maybe not as much different to you and what your intentions were, but because it protects what can happen to that property with future developers, I feel like it's an investment in your community, and I'm so glad you made it. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So I move to approve.
Second by Palmer. And I too would like to thank you, Mr. Tidwell, but I'd also like to thank Commissioner Goodwin, because you're the one who really brought this to light. So thank you so much. I think it's a much better plan to go forward. With that, all in favor? Aye. Any opposition? Passes 4-0. Thank you very much. Good stuff.
Thank you all, commissioners.
Okay. So we do not have any department business. We really had a long consent agenda this morning. So with that, we'll go to the commissioners for a commissioner minute. So we'll start with Commissioner Cox.
I really just had a heavy balanced with maybe a good hope message that we very unfortunately, especially for me, I mean, this person was someone that I so revered that I asked him to run for my seat before I ran for it myself. We lost Jeremy Stewart, who was the chairman of our planning commission since our last meeting or thereabout. And that seat was in my district as a seat I took very, very seriously in positioning myself to fill. I knew right away who I had in mind for that position, and that person has made the application process. And our thank you to staff for streamlining that application process, because that person is a cut above, I think, who will serve both sides. It's a legacy landholder in Okaloosa County, the largest landholder in Okaloosa County, who is also a farmer. And I feel like because that particular farmer is very balanced in knowing what this county is going to need and what the county is facing in growth, we'll balance that very well against what responsible development looks like. So I'm happy to announce that my selection for that position is Nick Marshall. And I hope that you will respect that decision. It was a very, it was a blessing to me to be able to put him in that position. A blessing that he was willing to serve. He's always, he does a lot. Mr. Marshall does a lot with the Florida Farm Bureau at the federal level and at the state level to defend our farmers and our farming culture. And still has a very realistic approach to what development and growth should look like in especially the north end of the county. So while we mourn the loss of Jeremy Stewart, a friend and much like family member, I am very blessed to announce that Nick Marshall is willing to fill those shoes. And I look forward to successful meetings moving forward. And that's all I had.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Cox. Commissioner Goodwin. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Palmer.
I just want to say happy Mother's Day this coming Sunday to all the mothers. We wouldn't be here without you. So thank you.
That's nice. The only thing I have is just want to remind everybody on June 12th, we have Women's Veterans Recognition Day at the Convention Center. We open the doors at 7:30. We keep a real quick timeline, 1 hour. Then we go out to the plaza and there's wreaths that are put there for those who have served. I hope all of you come. It's free and open to the public. We are unveiling 2 new statues. Very excited on that 20.5-acre parcel. It's a beautiful park. It's come to mean a lot to our women veterans and as well as the men. We were at the Vietnam anniversary for the chamber the other night, and they had a beautiful film put together by Mr. Tomacek, and they recognized the work of the Women's Veterans Park. So I was really honored by that. Thank you so much for that. Now I'll turn to public comments. I have 1 speaker card, but anybody who wishes to speak about any matter, please feel free to come up and you can fill one up afterwards. Gil Fortner, is Gil Fortner still here? Thank you. Good morning. Could you push the button? I think I got turned off. Would you push the button there? Thank you. Little red light, yep.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Thank you for your time. 3 minutes goes quick. Last time I spoke for you, I didn't feel like I necessarily got the opportunity to finish wrapping up what I was saying and put a bow on it. I'd like to kind of do that as part of this. And as a brief recap, I had discussed longtime residents of Okaloosa County and how growth, urban sprawl, and the issues that North Okaloosa County is facing right now, how that is impacting residents. People came to Okaloosa County, and as I said last time, I love Okaloosa County. Lived here my whole life. People chose a life here, chose property that they could raise a family, that they could have their grandchildren come to play, and chose some of those, made decisions on property sizes, on locations. And now we see neighborhoods that you live in a cul-de-sac of nice homes that 850 to $1 million homes, and the property immediately behind it gets bought by a developer, clear cut, and a home is built with a porch off the back of it by the developer on these 1/4-acre lots that is 15 feet from their property line. Imagine now that your piece of heaven is impacted by a new resident who has dogs that choose to bark incessantly the entire time that they're out there. And where I'm going with this is we need to recognize that citizens that spent their life dedicated to Okaloosa County that those people need to have some rights in this process also. Not just developers, not just, oh, we checked off box A, B, and C, and now we can build a neighborhood, clear cut it. And I'm not happy to say that I drove from to Baker yesterday, and where they are changing what was beautiful farmland to residential neighborhoods. They pushed down the 3 remaining oak trees that were on the boundary of that property. And they're piled up out there for, almost as a testament to, the change. We couldn't save 3 trees that didn't impact that farmland, but they do the building. Thank you for your time.
Do we have anybody else who would like to speak at this time? Okay. With that, seeing nothing else, the meeting is adjourned.
On both sides, still gotta get some those guys. I met the fighting guys out there last week. Some batting cages. Yeah. All right, man. You got an answer.
I heard that. He called me, he's like, guess what I just met? I was like, hey, what's the issue doing there? He's a hot mess. Don't believe anything he says. Listen, y'all got food trucks everywhere. I'm like, what do you do? Love that stuff.